Welcome, everybody, to week 7 of the NFL season. Back again for the live start sit, the Fatboyz, presented by the Fantasyholics Podcast Network. Brant, this week's a little less appetizing just due to the simple fact that we don't have football all day. There's no overseas game this week. We are just forced to be peasants and watch pregame shows this week. We are forced to wait till the 1 o'clock slate for football this week. So some of, I guess that gives you a chance to get right with the family. Spend some time putting up Christmas lights, which I did that yesterday. Christmas is right around the corner in our house. November 1st, we start celebrating here. So yeah. And beside the point, Brant, it gets chilly here. I'm not trying to be outside in the cold putting up Christmas lights. So you got to get that done early. But yes, Christmas lights today potentially. There's no football to watch right now, Brent. We've been spoiled for the first several weeks of the season. I don't know what to do with my hands right now.
Tinker with your lineups rather than put up Christmas lights, but I'm the Grinch. Anyone that watched us last year saw my Grinch for the Christmas Day live we did. I'm the Grinch. I'm not a big Christmas guy. I love my family. I'd love to spend time with them, but I don't care about all the lights and the trees and all that. So maybe that's just a me guy. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Get out there, put up your Christmas lights. Good for you. I should probably get up there and clean gutters, but Lord knows I'll break something.
Well, probably the roof and the gutters, but
yes.
That's a story for another day. All right, Brent, you ready to get started? Here we go. We've got our first question, by the way, of Kevin. He says, "Good morning, guys. I have CMC. I picked up Mitchell, but Mason available too. Which one should I plug in if CMC is a no-go?"
If CMC is a no-go, I got to go with Mason. He just looked like he was the more explosive guy off the line last week. I don't like to have that backup because I really do think it'll be a committee. But I think if I'm waiting, which CMC is a guy that I'd wait on, I think I'm going with Mason.
Yeah, so this one's tough, Brant, because obviously either one of these guys is a simple downgrade from CMC. But you're right. If there's any chance CMC plays, which I tend to think he's going to suit up, this is a game that he should have a huge role in. But anyway, I tend to lean off a track record, right? And I know Mason looked good last week, but Mitchell's been really, really solid his entire NFL career to this point. So I do think Kyle Shanahan's going to try to get Mitchell to be the focal point of that backfield if there's no CMC. So I do go Mitchell just because the track record's a little more extensive. And really, what do we have in fantasy football if not for track records to go off of? Very, very few times do we as fantasy football managers do we plug in a breakout contender before they break out. Usually most of us are pretty patient with that, and we wait a week or two, make sure it's real before we put it in the lineup, right? So I do like Mitchell if CMC is unavailable in that one.
Okay.
Joe says he needs one running back and a flex PPR out of this: Madison, Foreman, Mitchell, Warren, or Bourne. Brant, who do you like there for a flex and a running back?
I actually like Warren right here. I like the fact that Warren should be seeing some ball or catches through the air. With Johnson coming back, they should be focused on both Johnson and Pickens. I know Freiermuth went down to the IR, but I really like Jaylen Warren to see quite a few catches this week and possibly quite a few runs.
So you start him in your running back spot. Who do you put in the flex then?
Oh, my fault. Give me Foreman. Backup quarterbacks in that game. Lean on the run. Give me Foreman.
Yeah, I'm going to go Alexander Madison and Deonta Foreman in this one for running back and flex. I just think both of them should have the lion's share. The Mitchell thing would be interesting again if we knew CMC was out now. But since we don't, I'm not going to roll the dice and then have CMC play and get nothing out of Mitchell. So I like Madison. I like Foreman. Both those guys should see the lion's share in their backfields.
Okay.
Michael says Cooper or Myers in the flex, Brant. So we've got Amari Cooper against the Colts. Potentially with Deshaun Watson. It sounds like he's going to be a game time decision, but it sounds like he's closer to playing than not. Or Jacoby Myers with Brian Hoyer, Brant.
I'm going with Cooper. As much as I love Jacoby and I've been on the Jacoby train since day one he walked into New England, I got to jump off that train this week. I don't know what to get with Hoyer, although Hoyer did spend some time with him in New England. I still think I have to go with Cooper and Watson.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Cooper here as well. Jacoby's been so good, but that's kind of been with Jimmy G. He's been Jimmy G's guy. Whereas Cooper's kind of been a stud his entire career. So I think I do lean Cooper here by the slightest of margins. All right. Kevin says, I also have Kyron Williams picked up Henderson. Should I keep Henderson or pick up Mitchell and Mason or with Mitchell and pick up Mason? So he can either keep Henderson and keep Mitchell, or he drops Henderson for Mitchell or for Mason. I'm sorry. And has both the San Francisco back.
In my mind, I'm keeping Henderson. Henderson already knows the playbook. Henderson was great there before he got cut or traded. I'm not 100% sure what happened with him. He already knows the playbook. He was taken over for Akers. I think Henderson takes this backfield and he runs away with this backfield pretty quickly. So I'm not dropping Henderson anywhere that I have him.
Yeah, I'm keeping Henderson as well. Again, Henderson's got some long-term value in fantasy right now, where Mitchell and Mason really are just this week, because let's be honest, those guys aren't unseating CMC anytime soon. So I think you keep Henderson just due to the potential long-term value there. Patrick says, pick one, full PPR, Deontay Johnson versus the Rams, JSN versus the Cardinals, or Musgrave versus the Broncos, Brant.
Oh, JSN versus the Cardinals. I think DK is going to be limited this week. He's been banged up all week with ribs, so I think he'll be limited. Give me JSN versus the Cardinals. Johnson, I think, will take a little time to get back into the fold. The Rams have been decent on defense. I don't see that game being too much of a shootout, and I think we're due for that JSN breakout. I really, really want to say it's going to be this week with DK probably be banged up all week. So give me JSN.
Yeah, Brent, we're in unison on this one. I also like JSN this week. I think Deontay Johnson ends up being just fine over the course of the season. But kind of like you alluded to, it's going to be a couple games to get his legs back underneath of him, to get his trust reestablished with Kenny Pickett. I do think JSN's starting to come on pretty strong. And like you alluded to, with DK having some injury designations heading into this game, I think they will try to keep him, somewhat healthy since you guys have already had your bye week. So I do think JSN is the guy there. Darren says, opinion, DFS, do you load up on running back with Pacheco and Walker, or at wide receiver with Kupp and Allen? Thanks.
Can I get Walker and Allen, or Walker and Kupp?
Oh no, it's Kupp and Allen for me. Those guys are both. You've got Cooper Kupp against the Steelers, who's going to be heavily targeted, and then you've got Keenan Allen in the Chiefs game. Right? I mean, that's going to be one of the higher scoring, better games of the week, and both of those guys are must plays. They're just higher ceiling plays. And DFS, I'm looking for ceiling, not safety. I'm going with the two wide receivers.
Yeah, I'll take the two wideouts too. I think those guys will explode this week, so I will take both of those if I can't get Walker in there.
All right, Mark says, need two in PPR, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, Cortland Sutton, or Smith in Jigba.
Need two. I'm going JSN here. Oh, my God. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to go with Curtis Samuel as the number two. He's been quietly good the last few weeks. He's found the end zone. I think I'm going with Samuel and JSN here. Man, Palmer in that game, though, is so tempting, but we all know my track record with Chargers wideouts. I try to avoid them. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Samuel and JSN and probably be completely wrong, so you probably should go with Palmer.
I'm going to go with Palmer over Curtis Samuel. It's close, but Washington with Eric Bieniemy this year, it's kind of been similar to what we saw with the Kansas City Chiefs when he was there. It's kind of a spread the ball out. You never know who it's going to be outside of Scary Terry. You've had Logan Thomas have a good weeks. Jahan Dotson is really kind of the only one who hasn't really yet. You've had Curtis Samuel have some good games. The running backs, Antonio Gibson's had some good weeks. So this could be a Curtis Samuel week, but I'm not sure. Whereas Palmer's been pretty heavily involved in that offense there. And again, a high scoring game where both these teams are going to be passing the ball. I like Palmer, and then Smith and Jigba's the other one I go with here. Again, with DK on an injury designation this week, Jackson Smith and Jigba should see a lot of volume today. All right. Kevin says pick 2, Godwin, Hollywood Brown, and Jacoby Myers with no Jimmy G.
Godwin and Hollywood Brown are my favorite. Seattle is vulnerable. Yes, we've looked decent with our corners, but we're still vulnerable against the pass. And Godwin's Godwin. I'm sorry, he's sneakily having a decent year at his PPR value. So I'm going to go with Godwin and Brown here. I gotta hate going against Jacoby so much. Hurts my feelings.
Yep, I hear you there, Brant. I'm in agreement. It's Hollywood and Godwin. Tony says I have CMC and Metcalf in my league. The problem is my roster locks at 1 and can't change anything. Should I play both of them or go another direction? If Metcalf don't go, I have either Downs or Dobbs, Brant.
Wow. Wow. Man.
I think both of these guys end up playing. I'm just going to say I'm not a doctor, but I think both of these guys are ballers. I think they're both gamers. I think they both suit up. They both try to go out and help their teams. So I think I wouldn't be comfortable with either of these two being out of my lineup if they do play. Tony, that's a tough problem, but I think I'd go ahead and play both of them, honestly.
Yeah, I think I am too. Metcalf has sounded like he'll be playing all week. He's logged limited practices. That's what I was just double checking on Seahawks practice report. So I do think he plays. And CMC, I haven't seen. I understand he hasn't practiced, but it's CMC. Odds are he'll be out there. And if he steps one cleat on the field to play, then I can't be comfortable putting him on my bench.
Absolutely, Brant. He follows this up with both quarterbacks doing good. Do you start Goff or Howell?
I'm going to go with Goff. I like Goff this week. I high scoring game. I enjoy that one there. I like Goff.
Yeah, Goff's kind of become a must start for me in fantasy so far this year. He's got too many weapons at his disposal, and he hasn't really shown anything to make us feel like benching him. I like Goff again in this game against the Ravens. I think this should be a pretty entertaining game. Matt says, good morning, gentlemen. I'm needing a flex play. Alexander Madison, Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson, or Cole Kmet.
Give me Michael Pittman with the backup quarterback with the stash in there. Give me Michael Pittman to be my flex play.
Yeah, I think I also go Michael Pittman here. He's been sneaky good all season. And I think he's probably safer than Deontay Johnson with a higher ceiling. Just due to, first of all, Brant, it's harder than heck to run against the Browns defense, but it's not nearly as hard to pass on them. So I think you're safe starting Michael Pittman here in this game. I think if the Colts are to win this game, it's going to have to be on the back of Minshew mania. So I'll roll the dice with Michael Pittman as well.
Tell me to get my jorts out today?
No, I'm not. Jennifer says Foreman or Javonte Williams. And then the secondary question is Devonta Smith or Flowers in PPR. So let's start with that first one. Which running back do you feel more comfortable with, Brant? Deonta Foreman against the Raiders or Javonte Williams against the Packers?
I think I got to go with Foreman. Foreman's still the only guy in the backfield. As much as I'd like to say Williams, the rest of the backfield has looked pretty serviceable. So I think I actually have to lean Foreman on this one.
Yeah, I think I also go Foreman. Javonte Williams really hasn't had any explosive ability this year. Jaleel McLaughlin looks like the better ball carrier in Denver at this point. So I'm nervous about Williams. Whereas with Roshan Johnson out, no Khalil Herbert, obviously still in Chicago and a backup quarterback. I like Foreman this week. All right, Brant, moving on to the second half of this one. This one's tough. Devonta Smith or Flowers there in Baltimore.
It's not too tough for me. I'm going with Zay Flowers this week. Smith's been, you and me talked about it on the cast. Smith's been a little bit of a disappointment. I do expect a bounce back for him. I'm not sure when that's coming, and I'd rather him be on my bench than Zay Flowers in what could potentially be a huge shootout game in Detroit. As you go to, Smith, he is going against Miami, who do have Howard as one of their corners, and there's the potential of Jalen Ramsey coming back. I don't think he's coming back this week, but there's that potential that he could be coming back too.
Yeah, it's Devonta Smith for me, Brant. The Vegas expects the Eagles Dolphins game to be the highest scoring game of the week. I expect that to be one of the highest scoring games of the week. And Devonta Smith, again, it's the track record for me. We've seen Zay Flowers explode week 1 of the NFL season and be amazing, and then he's kind of tampered off as he's not been as good any week since week 1. Whereas Devonta Smith has the entirety of last season, and then he's had some good games already this year. I know you and I both talked about him on our Monday cast, and we're a little down on him right now. It's not been where we expected with it, where it came to his draft stock. But ultimately, I do think I trust Jalen Hurts as a passer slightly more than I do Lamar Jackson at this point. So I'm still trusting the gut. I'm going with Devonta Smith.
Okay.
All right. Colby says full point PPR, Komet or Mayer, given the circumstances of both teams. He says, morning, guys. Appreciate you both. Good luck. All right, Colby, I appreciate that part of it. So both these guys with backup quarterbacks, Brian Hoyer with Mayer or Cole Komet with Baggert.
See, normally it'd be an almost an instant thing that I'd go tight end, backup quarterback, loves their tight end. But that's where God, that's a rookie. I think I have to go Cole Komet. That's a rookie tight end. I don't know how it's going to look. They have Jacobs back there, so they do have a powerful run game. So I think I have to go Cole Komet.
Yeah, I go Cole Komet here as well. Yes, there's DJ Moore in town, but there's not Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams where Mayer's competing. I like Mayer a lot with Jimmy G. I'm not sure how I feel about him with Brian Hoyer, obviously. And then on the other side of the ball, Chicago is starting a rookie quarterback. So I do think that gives me the nod to Cole Komet slightly. Colby follows it up and says full point PPR, Rashee Rice or Gabe Davis, Brant.
Give me Rashee Rice, baby. Give me Rashee Rice this week. I absolutely love Rashee Rice. I threw him in my DFS lineup last week as a little $5,000 play, and it paid off, and I'm riding that coattail. Give me Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I agree. I like Rashee Rice quite a bit. I think he ends up being the guy in Kansas City. And one of these weeks, we're going to see him as a get-right game. I think that's coming.
So before we move on, Rashee Rice has seen a 38% red zone target share in Kansas City. He has a higher red zone target share than Travis Kelce. I saw this stat this morning. It was mind-boggling. I was like, I'm going to find a way to get this in, because to me, that's just crazy that he's getting a higher target share than Travis Kelce.
Absolutely, Brant. All right, Brandon says, what do you guys think about Bears under 17.5 total points, Brant?
Hey, what's up? What's up, Kropchak? How you been, buddy? I like it. I don't even know if they can score that with Justin Fields. So I think I like that under 17.5 total points.
Yeah, the Bears offense is one of those when you expect them to do something, Brant, they do the opposite. It's like the beginning of the year. We thought, hey, Fields is going to be rolling out of the pocket, throwing dots to DJ Moore. This offense is going to be way better than it was last year. And then it took 5 games before we saw it. And then they kind of reverted again. I don't know. As soon as you expect them to do something, they do the opposite. So they'll probably go for 40 today. But this does feel like it should be pretty safe with a backup rookie quarterback, 0-star coming into college, undrafted. This feels like it's a pretty safe play. And also, Kropchak, hope everything's doing well for you, buddy. Miss seeing you at the prison. I'm glad you're out of there, though. I know you're probably a lot happier. Paul says, morning, guys. Need a defense for DFS play. Browns versus Indy, or go with the popular play of Washington versus the Giants. So we'll start there, Brant. Who do you prefer, the Browns defense versus Indy, or the Commanders versus the New York Giants?
I'm going with the Browns. I went out and picked them up in almost every league that I could. I'm going with the Browns versus Indy. I absolutely love it. I think it's the cheaper play as well. Either one, you can't go wrong. I probably would flex to the cheaper one. And like I said, I believe the Browns was the cheaper one.
Yeah, I agree here, Brent. Whichever one's cheaper, I think I go with. You'll get both of these offenses should yield plenty of turnovers between the Giants and the Colts. That is, but yeah, I think it's like you said, Brent. Whichever one's cheaper, because they both should have decent scores today. It says also need a running back 2 in redraft league between Evans versus the Steelers, Ingram versus the Seahawks, or Wilson versus the Eagles. Hit hard with injuries and bye week blues.
This one kind of kind of seems easy, but it's probably not going to be when I say it. I'm going with Ingram versus the Seahawks. He seemed to take over the lead role there. Evans is already being talked about, sliding behind two other running backs. Wilson's just now coming off IR, and Mostert's been one of the best fantasy running backs in the league. And they play the Eagles, so I think I have to go with Ingram.
Yeah, Brant, you're right. It's Ingram. It feels a lot easier than it should be, but it's Ingram. Evans, I thought was going to have a better role than he does, but it appears the Rams are kind of more interested in what Darrell Henderson has and Royce Freeman. So it's Ingram for me here. Again, like you said, Wilson's coming back from IR. I want to see what he looks like. It may take him a week or two to get his legs back underneath of him. Amy says Javonte Williams or Dobbs at the flex. And then she's got a second question. So let's start with that. Javonte or Romeo Dobbs, Brant?
I'm going to take Romeo Dobbs at the flex there. I like his matchup a little bit better. And like you said earlier, Williams just hasn't had any explosive plays this year. So I think I'll go with Dobbs.
I'm cool with Dobbs with that one. And then the second part of the question is Javonte Williams, Jerome Ford, or James Cook?
Man, James Cook got outsnapped from Murray last week, so that does scare me a little bit. I'm going to go with Ford. Ford showed he was capable of carrying the load last week against San Fran, so I think that they'll continue to lean on him. Give me Ford.
Yeah, I'm in on Jerome Ford here as well, Brant. That's kind of where I feel as well. John says Drake London, Ramondre Stevenson, Deontay Johnson, and Kendrick Bourne. Pick 2 in standard scoring, Brant.
So I'm going to go with Stevenson's my first one. I know he's been a little, disappointing, but I am going to go with Stevenson, and I'll talk about that one here in just a little bit on why. And I think I have to go with London. London's starting to come on. I don't want to throw Johnson straight into my lineup. I'd like to see what he looks like coming off of IR. And I'm sorry, I don't trust anything in New England, so I'll pass on that.
Yeah, right after you pick Stevenson, you say you don't trust anything in New England.
Pass catchers in New England. Let me put it out there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I go with London and Stevenson as well here, Brant. I think maybe a week from now that's different, but I really do want to see what Kenny Pickett looks like with Deontay Johnson. I want to see what Deontay Johnson looks like coming back from the injury. Drake London's been really good despite Desmond Ridder this year, outside of his goose egg week 1. So I like him. And then, in standard scoring, I got to go with the guy who gives me the best upside at a touchdown, and that is Ramondre Stevenson, Brant. Bill says PPR Foreman or White?
I think I go with Foreman. Once again, only running back in the backfield. I think I lean Foreman on this one.
Yeah, I go Foreman as well. The Falcons have been pretty stingy against the run game this year for the most part. Rachaad White really hasn't done a whole lot either. He's kind of been one of the bigger disappointments on the fantasy football season, whereas, Foreman's only been disappointing 1 week. So, I think I go Foreman here as well. Backup quarterback should be – the Bears' game plan should be to get him as many carries as they can. So I go Foreman over White. All right, Brant. Todd says KJ Osborne, Rashee Rice, or Dante Foreman. Pick 2.5 point PPR.
I'm going Rashee Rice and Devontae Foreman. Minnesota has to play San Fran, so I'm going to fade a lot of that. So give me Rice and Foreman.
Yeah, I'm very, very like-minded. Again, Brant, this is starting to get scary. It is spooky season with Halloween around the corner, but here we are agreeing on everything. Rashee Rice and Deontay Foreman for me as well on half-point PPR. All right, John says Foreman or Wilson Jr., Lions or Pitts D. So, okay, we'll stick to the offensive side of this question first. Again, Brand, I think we're both in agreement. We're not starting Wilson yet. We want to see what that looks like. Mostert's been too good. Foreman should be the lead ball carrier in the Bears offense. You see anything that changes your mind on that in this one?
No, I haven't, especially with them going against Philly this week too. So I really don't know if we're going to see a whole lot out of Wilson.
All right, and then the defensive side of it, the Lions or the Pittsburgh D. Which one do you prefer there?
I think I go with the Lions just because they're stingy against the runs, and I think that they'll commit some turnovers. So I think I'll go with the Lions.
Okay, Brent, the Lions D. Yeah, I think I'd rather. At this point, I think I'd rather start a defense that doesn't have to go against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So yeah, I'm going to go Lions too. I know Lamar Jackson's scary, but man, that Rams offense has been a lot better than most of us expected it to be this year. All right, Jennifer says Jaden Reed, Kendrick Bourne, or Craig Reynolds in the flex. It's a tough week in this league, she says.
I think I go with Reed. I think he supplies better upside. Baltimore's been okay against the pass, so I'm not sure how that's going to look there in Detroit. So I think I go with Reed.
Oh man.
Just so you guys know, we have faded Bourne quite a bit, so he's probably going to blow up this week. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I don't think I'm fading him in this one, Brand. I think this is the one where I do put Bourne in, is right here over Reed or Reynolds. So I think I do go Bourne here. Man, that's hard trusting anybody who has to catch balls from either Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi this year, but give me Bourne. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to move on so I can't change my mind. All right, Mark says Jared Goff or Sam Howell, Brant?
Goff. I like Goff in the matchup. I think this is going to be one of the high-scoring games, so give me Goff.
Yeah, I'm in agreement here. It's Jared Goff for me again. That Amon-Ra St. Brown connection, the Sam Laporta connection, the Jameson Williams deep ball threat, all those things are all too good for me to sit. And again, Sam Howell's been fine, but man, that's just one of the lower scoring games this week against the Giants. They're not going to have to put a ton of points on the board. I could see this being a huge Brian Robinson day, so I think I do go Jared Goff over Sam Howell here pretty confidently. Oop. That fingered click too fast there, Brant. Ryan says questionable tags going into Monday Night Football are the worst. What are we doing with CMC? He follows it up by saying Mitchell and Mason aren't available as cuffs in this league. So how are you feeling about CMC, Brant?
Ryan, it really depends on who's sitting there on your bench, on how comfortable. I think CMC plays, and like I said, if he puts the cleat on the field, I'm playing him, whether he plays one down or the entire game. So unless I have somebody that I'm extremely comfortable with on my bench right now, I'm probably going to keep him in my lineup.
Yeah, I would have to have a really good pivot play away from him to consider benching him at this point, just due to the fact that he's questionable. I think he plays. Oh man, I couldn't imagine having him in my. I'm more okay with CMC in my starting lineup going for a 0 because I rolled the dice waiting for Monday Night Football than I am CMC going off on my bench. That's just a tough question, Ryan. And honestly, you're one of the guys that I trust most in the Fantasy Holics. So whatever your gut says, Ryan, that's what I go with, because you've been right about a lot of things. So I tend to agree with Brant here. He's too valuable to take out of the lineup. But again, whatever your gut tells you, I think you do in that situation. All right, Dickie says, should I start the Bucs defense against Atlanta, Brant?
Yeah, I think I do. Ritter's probably going to give you some points. Unfortunately, I hate to say that about your team, but it's probably true.
No, yeah, it is. Ritter takes unnecessary sacks. He forces the ball into some tight coverage sometimes. So yeah, I'm okay with starting the Bucs defense against the Atlanta Falcons. Now on the catch side of that, there's been games where the offenses look good, but again, if Ritter goes out and puts up 28 points, but still has, the Falcons put up 28 points, but Ritter still has a couple turnovers, or we've had some guys that have some fumble issues this year. Yeah, I mean, the Bucs could lose this game and still have a pretty decent outing on defense. So yeah, I think there's just too much possibility of turnovers with the Falcons offense. So yeah, I'm comfortable playing a defense like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against them. Not a start sit, but how much longer do we see Ritter? Oh man.
In my opinion, I've been cheering for Heineke forever. I just think he's a dog and a winner. I want to see him on the field with that team and all the weapons that they do have. But Finley, you got more insight than me on that one.
Yeah, so there's, as a Falcons fan, as a Desmond Ritter fan out of Cincinnati, Brant can attest. Ritter was my favorite quarterback in that draft class. I think you have to be patient with him. The play calling hasn't been the greatest. I mean, I don't understand why Bijan Robinson's not getting 20 plus carries a game and a lot of play action passes for Ritter. But nonetheless, Ritter's been good in some games, bad in others. I think he's going to have a little bit of a longer leash than what people are expecting, because the hard thing is, once you bench him and go to Heineke, it's really hard to come back to a guy like Ritter, because you're going to destroy his confidence. Matt Ryan, who is one of my favorite all-time players, obviously as a homer, but I did get to listen to him call a game last week, kind of come out and said it, and I think he said best. The next 6 weeks are going to be really, really telling for the Atlanta Falcons offense and for Desmond Ritter. So I'm expecting him to get at least, as long as Matt Ryan says 6 weeks. Who am I to say less? I do think it'd be the bye week is around the time that you'd start to see. Atlanta has a week 11 bye week. So if Atlanta starts, if we go on a pretty good losing streak between now and then, or if we're winning just despite Ritter, then obviously I think that changes things. But I think he gets at least through week 11 as the starter. We'll see what happens after the bye week. Dick says, do I pick up Packers defense or stick with the Kansas City defense, Brant?
Denver's offense has been okay. I actually am going to go with the Kansas City defense. They've been sneaky good. They've actually been able to get to the quarterback, create turnovers. So I'm going to stick with Kansas City this week. I know they play the shootout and with Justin Herbert, but I like Kansas City's defense this week.
Brant, who's not going to have 60 yards passing going into the fourth quarter on these games is not Justin Herbert. Russell Wilson may only have 60 yards passing going into the fourth quarter like he did a few weeks ago. Kansas City defense is going to give up more points scoring wise, but they have a better chance at turnovers. I guess stick with the Kansas City Chiefs just because you already roster them. I'd go with the Chiefs. Bill says PPR, Madison or Foreman, Brant?
I'm going with Foreman. Madison's going to be the focal point of that San Fran's defense. They're stingy against the run. I know they slipped up last week, but I don't see them slipping up 2 weeks in a row. Give me Foreman on this one.
Yep, I'll stay with Foreman as well. Brant, that Niners defense is scary. I'm not starting any running backs against them just because they got gouged 1 week. I'll go Foreman here. Sherman says Justin Herbert against the Chiefs or your Geno Smith, Brant, against the Arizona Cardinals. How are you feeling about Geno this week?
Well, why I expect Geno to have a bounce back after the cruddy week he had last week. I still have to start Herbert. Herbert's a start it and forget it type of guy, in my opinion. I think that Seattle's going to lean a little more on the run this week, just because they are playing Arizona and they do tend to ground and pound a little more in divisional games.
Yeah, I'm going Herbert here. There's just he's too good to sit, in my opinion. I think Geno's a serviceable bye week quarterback for fantasy. I just don't think I'm starting Geno over Herbert. Any chance I have to have Herbert, I'm going to play him. All right, Matea says, picked up Darrell Henderson and traded away Craig Reynolds. Was that a good swap?
Yes, I believe it was. Like I said, I believe Henderson takes over that backfield sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. I think Henderson takes over that backfield, or at least has a chance to. Reynolds has got no chance. David Montgomery's looked too good. And even though I don't believe they're using Jahmyr Gibbs correctly in Detroit, they're still not going to turn the keys over to Craig Reynolds before the guy they traded up to get in the draft. I wouldn't assume. So I do think Henderson was a good pickup. Speaking of Henderson, Kevin says, start Darrell Henderson or wait till tomorrow and start CMC or Mitchell/Mason.
Wait till tomorrow. Start CMC. If not, pivot over to Mitchell or Mason. I say Mason, you say Mitchell. So go with whatever your gut tells you tomorrow.
Yeah, go with whatever your gut tells you. And if CMC isn't playing, that hopefully we get some kind of a, from the 49ers media or somewhere out there, we get some kind of insight as to who the guy will be in that backfield. And Ryan says, Kevin, that's a situation where you have to roll a CMC and swap the cuff. Yeah, Ryan, we agree completely. You're waiting on CMC in that instance. And again, whichever of these two cuffs that you feel better about, whether it be Jordan Mason or Elijah Mitchell, that's who you play. And you just hope that one of them has a CMC like week.
Or just hope they both fall in the end zone. That way you're guaranteed whichever one you went with.
That would work too. Yes. All right, Brent. So in this 12 o'clock, 1 p.m. slate, which game are you looking at to watch here to see some fantasy relevancy?
Fantasy relevancy is going to be the Detroit-Baltimore game, but the game I'm actually looking forward to is the Washington at New York Giants game. Let's see how these teams look in the divisional game. Neither one is head and shoulders above the rest of the division. They're both just sitting there in the back. Let's see how these two teams look. Let's see how well they battle it out. Let's see what these offenses really look like.
Yeah, I'm cool to watch any game in that 12 o'clock slate as long as it's not the Chicago Bears versus the Raiders. Two backup quarterbacks, two teams that really don't have any defense. There's nothing exciting about this game to me. My goodness, I just can't imagine. And Brant, where you and I live, that's the game that would be on TV if it wasn't for both of us having additional ways to watch other games.
Oh,
and
Lord.
I just think this would be one of those weeks where I'd tell my wife how important she is to me. And I'm like, you're more important than football, honey. Let's go find something to do. Right. So I would not watch the Bears and Raiders game. That's just not something that I'd be interested in. So any game other than that, I'm cool.
Thank goodness for CBS and the Browns and Colts.
There you go. There you go, Brant. All right. John says Deontay Foreman or Kareem Hunt in 1 point PPR.
Foreman. I still like Foreman this week. I expect him to have a good game. So give me Foreman.
Yeah, I think I go with Foreman as well. Hunt's look good, but I do think this is the Jerome Ford show. Yeah, give me Foreman in that one, Brant. Yeah, we'll go Foreman. All right, AJ says DK Metcalf, Joshua Palmer, or Josh Reynolds for his flex.
So I'm going with Metcalf because the plus side is you have Palmer to switch to if Metcalf happens to get ruled out. And I like both of them over Reynolds anyway, so I'm going to go with Metcalf, and I'll switch to Palmer if I have to.
Yeah, I like that, Brant. If DK plays, you got to have him in your lineup. The touchdown upside is too good with his big body and strong hands near the goal line. So, yeah, I go DK Metcalf if he's healthy. Even limited, DK Metcalf should be really good in the red zone. So I do start him, and then if I have to pivot, obviously Joshua Palmer's is about as good as it gets. So I think you go DK. Reynolds is out for me as well. Steven says for his running back 2, Alexander Madison or Rashad White.
White has been so disappointing. I still think I have to go with White in this one. I can't trust Madison against the Niners, so I think I have to go with White.
Yeah, I think it's probably White by the slightest of margins. That Niners defense scares me a lot. Yeah, it's White, and I don't love that one either. Just like I said, the Falcons have been pretty good against the run as well, so I don't expect a huge day for White, but he's got better touchdown upside, I would say, in this game than Alexander Madison does. Brian says with CJ Stroud on a bye and Kirk Cousins at San Francisco, he picked up and is starting Sam Howell. How do you feel about that, Brant?
Cousins in primetime? No, thank you. Give me Sam Howell.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, doesn't matter who he's playing. There could be nobody on the other side of the ball, and Brant doesn't like Kirk Cousins in prime time. So, yeah, I think Kirk's kind of come out and rewritten that narrative this year. He's looked all right in primetime games this season. So, I think you're okay with Kirk Cousins. He's probably going to put up some decent points too. But Howell's fair this week. Just again, that Niners defense. They're going to come back looking for vengeance this week. I think it's okay to not start somebody against them this week because, yeah, Sam Howell's fine. All right, Ivano says, which Rams running back to start? Have them all. So
Henderson is my pick out of all of the ones that are there. I'm not even sure what their roster is looking like with running back, but I think I'm starting Henderson just because he knows the playbook.
It should be Henderson, Freeman, and Evans, I would assume, right, Brand? Is that not kind of where it's at? But yeah,
sounds like.
I think it's Henderson as well, just because of he's got experience with that offense. Sean McVay already knows what he has in him. That's obvious. Evans didn't do enough to show anything to be the guy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have went out and picked up these guys after injury. So I do think it's Henderson as well, Brant. All right. John says KC or Lions D, last one. First of all, John's hit us with as many of them as you got. We'll try to get as many questions in as we can before the 10 o'clock time hits. But which one do you prefer here, Brant? Do you prefer the Lions defense against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, or Kansas City against Justin Herbert and the Chargers?
I prefer the Lions this week. They are stingy against the run. We know that Baltimore's run first. So they're going to be stingy against that. They're going to force Lamar to make some passes. And, well, running backs passing the ball, it's never very good. So I expect the Lions, to cause some turnovers there against Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I think I'm in agreement. I think it's a little bit safer to go with the Lions defense than it is the Kansas City defense this week. All right, Ryan says, throwing out a nugget, toss some offers around in your leagues for Joshua Palmer. Stat Heroes, when we look at his points last week, he had a touchdown taken away and several additional receptions due to penalties. He's the wide receiver 2 in a high-end offense and could have sneaky flex value down the stretch. Don't go crazy, but I want him as an option. I do too, Ryan, as long as Brant doesn't get on board and start coming after Joshua Palmer, because if Brant's picking a Chargers wide receiver, I want the opposite. So when Brant gets on the Palmer train, I want Quentin Johnston.
Right now I'm on the Johnston's train, so pick up as much Palmer as you can. I'm actually starting Johnston in one league this week. It is a very deep league, so I have to.
All right. Okay, Brent. So outside of the 1 o'clock slate and excluding your Steelers, I'm not going to let you pick that game this week. What's a game that you're really excited to watch?
My Steelers.
Or I'm sorry, your Seahawks. I'm sorry. I was looking at the schedule as I said it. No, Green you're Bay not. They have way more. They have way more Super Bowl championships than your Seahawks. You're fine.
Green Bay and Denver. I just like that matchup there. It's a close game. Actually, a fairly high scoring game for this week by Vegas total. It's a 1-point spread in Green Bay's favor. Green Bay we saw be explosive at the beginning of the year. Denver's defense showed out a little bit last week against Kansas City, holding them to only 19 points. I know it sounds weird to say that, but when you're giving up 70 and then you hold somebody to 19, you're starting to look better. So I'm actually excited to see this game. I'd like to see what the turnaround is going to be for these two teams on week 7.
I am shocked, Brant, because we all know, anybody who knows you personally knows that your second favorite team is the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm shocked you didn't say the Eagles and Dolphins on Sunday Night Football, the highest point spread by Vegas's standards.
My entire fantasy team.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball. Literally, you're starting at least 5 guys in this game today, in our home league. So, okay. So yeah, your entire fantasy week stems on that game. That's a game that I'm going to watch pretty intently tonight. I personally don't have a whole lot of fantasy interest in that game, and when you're in enough leagues, you have some, obviously, but the leagues that I really, really care about, I don't have a whole lot of interest in that game, but it's one of them that it's just a good football game to watch, Brant. It's one that you're going to turn on and stay pretty intently tuned into.
Oh yeah. It should be a good game too.
It should be. You're right. Brian says Raiders defense against the rookie, or stick with the Cleveland Browns.
I'm sticking with the Browns. Who knows? That rookie may come out and ball out. I don't think he will, but I'm still sticking with the Browns.
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders here against the Bears. I went and picked them up in some places ahead of schedule, looking forward to this game before Justin Fields was ruled out. So yeah, now that Justin Fields is out, I'm all over the Raiders defense. Max Crosby's going to have his way with that rookie. What is it? Tyson Bagent. I expect him to have a rough outing there today. So I'll take the Raiders. All right, Brant, here's one that's going to have a split, I have a feeling. Phil says Zay Flowers or Deontay Johnson in a PPR league.
I'm going Zay Flowers. Like I said, I expect them to have to air the ball out. I don't trust running backs throwing the ball, but when it comes down to that, I think Zay Flowers gets the beneficiary of it, so I'm going to go with Zay Flowers.
I'm going Deontay Johnson here. This is one of the very few people that I'm willing to put Deontay Johnson in over this week. Not few. I say that like Zay Flowers has the plague. I don't dislike Zay Flowers. I don't trust Lamar Jackson is the problem here. Deontay Johnson is the one in that Pittsburgh offense. I'm hoping personally to see something with Deontay Johnson, like we saw with Cooper Kupp, come back week 1 and step right back into his role. But I do think Kenny Pickett's been missing Deontay Johnson this year. And if you've watched any Steelers games, Brant, that passing offense just does not look good. I do think they get him the ball quite frequently. And I know I want to kind of most times want to see the rust get shaken off, but I just don't like Lamar Jackson throwing the ball to my fantasy options. So I stay away from that if possible. All right, Cliff says, start 2, Gabe Davis, Curtis Samuel, Cortland Sutton, or I can pick up Rashee Rice off free agency. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off first. Brant,
hang on. He also said he could also get or Deontay Johnson is also part of that group. That's just two messages down. So
first and foremost, we're going to absolutely pick up Rashee Rice off of free agency. He cannot be sitting out there anymore. It can't happen. Has to be rostered, right? So first of all, and then I think as I look into it, Gabe Davis, boom or bust. He's either going to explode or he's not going to do anything. Curtis Samuel, very similar. It could be his week in Washington. It may not be. Cortland Sutton. I think Rashee Rice is a guy I pick up and play in that high scoring point total. And then I think I go Gabe Davis this week. Next week, I think I'd go Deontay Johnson again. I just like that. You're going with a play in Rashee Rice that I think is kind of a boom and bust. So you might as well go with 2 boom or bust plays in Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I think I go with Gabe Davis and Rashee Rice as well. We know New England likes to take away the best option. Well, the best option in Buffalo is Diggs, so he may have to lean on Davis quite a bit this week. So give me Davis and Rice.
Okay. All right, Brant, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the underdog plays of the week. We got some questions waiting, so we'll go through these underdogs quick. I just want to get them out at our normal time here while we're doing this. So let's jump into these, and then we'll come back to some questions. All right, Brant. So it says, excuse me here. All right. So go ahead and take me through your entire list of your underdog plays, Brant. Just a little bit of reaction to them because we do have some questions here. But go ahead and take me through yours, and then I'll hit mine real quick.
I'm going with Baggett higher than 181.5 passing yards. I just think 181 is too low. I expect them to have to pass the ball. I think Foreman will be involved, so I do expect him to go over 181 yards. I like Brian Robinson over 62.5 rushing yards. I think they're going to pound the ball on was that the Giants they have this week? Yeah, pound the ball on the Giants. So I expect him to have a good game. Ramondre Stevenson higher than 61.5 rush plus receiving yards. I expect that to be a Stevenson game this week, so I really like him. Then I'm going with Rashee Rice to go higher than 38.5 receiving yards. I expect him to be one of the beneficiaries of this high scoring offense. I expect him to become the guy this week. I expect him to see multiple targets, and I expect him to really go up. Then I'm going with my favorite pick of the week, and that is Kenneth Walker over 79.5 rush yards. Banged up DK Metcalf. Banged up Zach Charbonnet. Going to lean more on the run in my mind. Going against Arizona, who gives up over 112 yards of rushing per game. Give me Kenneth Walker to go over 79 yards. He could do that in 2 rushes.
He very well could. You're right, Brant. I didn't mean to do what I did today, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. I've got Jahmyr Gibbs higher than 3 receptions. Again, no David Montgomery should spell a higher workload for Jahmyr Gibbs this week against a pretty good Ravens defense. I look for Goff to get him involved. I've got Drake London over 4 receptions this week. Again, he's been Ritter proof the last few weeks. I expect that to continue today. Cade Otton higher than 2.5 receptions, Brant. So here you are. My first 3 picks are all higher than the reception totals that the lines are given for him. But the tight end position is kind of the way to beat the Atlanta Falcons. I think Baker Mayfield gets Cade Otton involved pretty early. I've got Wan'Dale Robinson in one of my favorite plays of the week, higher than 38.5 receiving yards against the Washington Commanders. He's kind of been the guy for the passing offense in the New York Brant. We talked about him a little bit on our Fatboyz cast this week. I'm really into Wan'Dale Robinson right now. And then, although I think he has a very good game, I think he finds the end zone. I've got Deontay Foreman lower than 71.5 total yards. I think the Raiders offense or defensive game plan coming into this week is we're going to make the quarterback beat us. We're not going to let Deontay Foreman do it. So I've got Deontay Foreman lower than 71.5 total yards, Brant.
Okay. I like those. I like it.
All right, let's get back into these questions. Try to get as many of them as we can done before we talk about the menu and then get out of here for the day. Todd says one more: Barkley, Aaron Jones, James Cook, Brian Robinson, or Drake London. Pick 3 of those. He says half point PPR here, but he later explains that it's actually full point PPR, not half point. So which one of the do you leave anybody out, first of all, Brant?
Man, I already had my 3 pick. Now you got to make me switch over my thought process. You know you're going to give me a headache with that. Yeah, I'm leaving James Cook out. He scares the crap out of me with how he got out snapped last week. But I'm starting Barkley, Jones, and Drake London in this in full point PPR. I love Barkley's Barkley. Can't take him out. I love Aaron Jones's matchup. And then Drake London, like you said, he's been Ritter proof. I expect him to see 4+ receptions. There's 4 yards or 4 points, plus the yards he gets, and if he finds the end zone.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty on pace with all of that, Brant. James Cook's the first one out. For me, the problem is Drake London and Brian Robinson. Obviously, your Barkley and Jones are guys when they're healthy. They have to be in your lineup. Robinson's got touchdown equity, especially against the Giants this week. Oh, man. It's hard to start all those running backs though. So I think I do go with you. Agree with you, Brant. I'll go with the upside of Drake London. Brian Robinson though could we've seen him have some work in the passing game this year. That scares me a little bit. Go ahead and go with Barkley, Jones, and London. I'll agree with Brant here. John says off topics, but do you like the Seahawks for a survival pick this week, Brant?
I picked the Seahawks in survival, so I guess I do. It was between them and the Niners, and I think the Niners will have a more lopsided matchup later, so I did take Seattle.
That's tough. I mean, it's one on paper that feels like it should be a pretty big slam dunk, but the Cardinals have hung in games they have no business hanging in this year. And yeah, all the other games are fairly well toss-ups with the exception of the Bills, who you guys have probably already used in a pick 'em. And I would say the Packers, I think, are a lock this week as well, even though Vegas doesn't see it that well. But yeah, I think you have to go with the Seahawks over the Cardinals, although I wouldn't be shocked to see this end up being a trap game here.
One of my main reasons for that is Seattle's back at home, coming off a bad loss, going in division. I expect them to try to get back on track.
All right, Brian says starting Pickens because of buys, but Deontay Johnson is available. What are your thoughts on that, Brant?
I think I start Johnson. Pickens is kind of a big play guy. He hasn't been a huge PPR upside, so I think I go and I grab Johnson and I start Johnson because of the buys.
Yeah, I think rest of season I'd rather own Deontay Johnson. I don't think I want to drop Pickens for him. I'd have to see who the rest of your roster is, Brian. I think there'd be somebody else I'd rather drop. Obviously, you're not going to start both Pickens and Johnson, but I do think Pickens is too good long term to drop at this point. So, rest of season between the two, I take Johnson. If that's the only choice you have, then I'd be better with Johnson. Cliff says, "Is Javonte Williams droppable at this point, Brant?"
Possibly. I don't know. It depends on what the rest of your roster looks like. I know none of those running backs have been good. McLaughlin's been the only thing that's been shiny there. So it depends on really what the rest of your roster looks like.
So I will say this. I'm not a huge Javonte Williams fan. He's not been doing anything this year to change that opinion either. However, Javonte Williams, I'm not dropping just to drop him. I'm not going to do that. Sean Payton's too good of a coach. If Javonte Williams has anything left at all that's going to help this Broncos team, at some point Sean Payton will find it. I'm not dropping him just to drop him. There'd have to be something out there on waivers that I'd rather have. And I can't imagine going into week 7 of the NFL season, there's anything that I love a lot more than Javonte Williams on the waivers. I think I'd be more comfortable stashing him on the bench and just kind of giving it a couple more weeks. If we're on week 10 and we've gotten through a lot of these bye weeks and Javonte Williams still hasn't come out and shown anything, yeah, maybe at week 10, I'm a little more comfortable dropping him, not to have him on my roster, but not right now. Todd says, thanks. It was Robinson and Lennon who he's struggling with. So Jason says Kareem Hunt was in my flex, but now it's a game time call with a thigh injury. So he's got McLaughlin that we just talked about with Denver, Royce Freeman, or Keontae Ingram in PPR. Brant, who do you like out of those?
If he doesn't go, I kind of like Ingram in PPR. He goes later in the day, so if Hunt doesn't go, I like Ingram over the other two, just because I really don't know what to do with the Denver backfield.
Yeah, I like Ingram as well. He kind of looked okay last week, looked better than DeMarcado, which is why I think a lot of people were dropping him again this week. I like Ingram this week. I think he could be okay. So I think you're pretty safe with him. All right, Brant, you talked about this before the show started. You were really excited to get this out. So let's go ahead and hear it. What's on the menu for you as a fat boy this week?
It's my favorite fall menu today. It is chili, cornbread, crackers, cheese. We're doing the soup fixing up. I've been waiting for chili. We do it in the cold months. And if you're here in Illinois, you know it's starting to get a little frigid. So that was the first thing on my mind. We're doing chili this week.
Yeah. Not nearly as exciting here in our household. We've got kind of a weird menu today, but I'm excited for it. Either way, we're doing Domino's for lunch. Kids stayed all night at the mother-in-law's house last night. They'll be home to a nice little surprise of Domino's there. And then we are having gyros, oddly enough, for dinner. Mama decided she wanted some gyros tonight. So gyros and football, who doesn't think that goes hand in hand? That's as American as it gets, right? It's gyros and baseball. Or is that apple pie? I don't know. Either way, yeah, gyros.
I feel like you should have had gyros like last week when we had an overseas game.
No. We don't play. They don't. NFL doesn't play in Greece. They don't play in Greece. Although Greece and Fatboyz, that kind of goes well together. Maybe we need to get on a plane and go have a show in Greece. I think that could be something we set up. That could really throw people off. Fatboyz live in Greece. People, I don't know. Maybe people get grossed out by that. Either way, Justin says PPR pick one: Zay Flowers, Aaron Jones, or Deontay Johnson. Brant.
Aaron Jones. He's one of my favorite starts. I know he's coming back from being hurt, but I absolutely love his start this week. I love his matchup. Give me Aaron Jones. As long as he plays, he's in my lineup.
Absolutely agree. It's Aaron Jones. The Packers offense has been missing him for sure. Dylan's been okay at best in his absence. I think the Packers will really look to get things going through Aaron Jones, and he's going to be the focal point of that offense when he's healthy. So I'm in agreement there, Brant. All right, we got just a few minutes left, barring any last-minute questions, Brant. Let's go ahead and take me through your touchdown scorers for today.
Running back Lamar Jackson to score a touchdown.
Okay.
Kenneth Walker versus Arizona to find the end zone again.
Okay.
Rashee Rice to find the end zone. I absolutely love it, and I love his target share. And then we just talked about this guy, and that's Aaron Jones to find the end zone. Love his matchup. Love that Green Bay's been missing him. I expect him to have a huge game this week.
All right. I like it, Brant. I've got Brian Robinson, who I think has been the focal point of that Washington Commanders team. I think he gets the end zone. Josh Jacobs in a game that is so ugly. He should be the focal point on the Raiders side of the ball. Christian Watson, I think, is going to get in the end zone this week in that Packers-Broncos game. And then my favorite touchdown scorer of the week, Brant, is none other than Mr. Unicorn himself, Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, finds the end zone today. All right. Matthew says, sorry if I'm late on this. How do we think Jeff Wilson will do? Thinking about plugging him in over Kareem Hunt to not have to stress about that last-minute out status. Do you play Jeff Wilson over Kareem Hunt this week, Brant?
No, because you don't have to stress about it. Because if Kareem Hunt is out, you have that time to pivot to Jeff Wilson. I'm starting Kareem Hunt. Jeff Wilson, I think, will be eased into it. And Mostert's been too good just to make him go sit in the back. Hey, Wilson's back. Go sit down. No, You're not going to do that.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Matt. I think we'll start getting these injuries, the game time guys in the noon slate, 1 o'clock slate. They're going to start coming in, rolling in here pretty soon. These guys are all getting out on the field, trying it, seeing how they feel in pregame warmups right now. So I think we should get some clarity here on Kareem Hunt probably in the next half an hour or so. So if he's playing, I think you play him over. Over Jeff Wilson, just because, again, Jeff Wilson's coming back. We don't know what his role is going to be in this Miami offense moving forward. And yes, I know that Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert were split in the backfield, and I do expect Jeff Wilson to get some kind of a role, although I don't know what it'll be yet. He's obviously not going to be Devin Achane, so I temper expectations with him for sure. I think barring a Raheem Mostert injury, it'd be really hard to advocate to start him. So, guys, just to kind of wrap it up, one last thing. If you haven't got your questions in with us yet, and you do have some start sit questions that you want to answer, don't hesitate to jump over to the Fantasy Holics Facebook page. There is a start sit post that will be going live momentarily if it hasn't already, and there'll be some very knowledgeable folks jumping on there and giving you answers to your start sit questions as we progress up until kickoff. So don't hesitate to jump over there. Thanks for tuning in with us this week. Good luck to everybody this week. Brant, what do you got for the folks?
It should be a good week of games. All these games are kind of toss-ups, including the game between backup quarterbacks. So it should be a good week of games. Tip of your fantasy points a little bit this week. Like if you've been scoring, we're just going to go out in our league that's a little flexed up. You've been scoring, 160, 170 points a week. You may want to break that down and think that you're probably only going to get 130, 140. It'll probably be your top scorers this week. I think we temper expectations. The matchups are starting to get into divisional games, so let's bring it down a little bit. But I think it's still going to be a good week of football. But as always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.